Terminator Genisys Rise of the Resistance, the board game. I know, long title for a game that I don't have here to show you. I'm just back from my vacation in Italy. I brought the game with me. I played there because the game is cooperative and you can play it solo against the AI of the board. And never was there a game in which the term AI applied better. And so right now I'm just back to the US. The game is in a box together with other things being shipped across the ocean. But don't worry, in the main segment of this video I'm going to show you the game because I filmed that segment in Italy in our vacation house. So that also, when in there, the audio may not be all that great. I'm not sure because I didn't have the soundproofing that you see around here. Games and books improve the audio and houses a lot next to the sea that you rent for the vacation. They don't necessarily work quite as well. As for the game itself, you are the resistance. If you're watching this video, you are the resistant. You and possibly other players will control a group of humans and you will complete different missions. The game is scenario based, mission based. You can also play the missions in order in a sort of campaign. There is a sort of dungeon crawler feel to it with a sci-fi theme, which of course is not necessarily a bad thing. I would say it's a pretty good thing because I like the dungeon crawler idea, and if we can have a different theme, then that can be a way of rejuvenating that idea, that core idea of proven mechanics and situations. Without further ado, let me show you the segment that I filmed a couple of days ago, and let's hope the audio is not too bad. The game takes place on a modular map that you build each time depending on the mission that you've decided to play. You look at the mission book and you set up the mission based on the instructions that you find there using these double-sided tiles. What you see here is not a specific map from any mission. It is a map that I just made up just because it allowed me to show you a little bit of everything. The heroes controlled by the players will move on that map. Each hero has a miniature and then you will color code it by adding a base like that one, which is very important. The heroes will move on this map, which is, as you can see, divided in axes and has a couple of things on it. We have gates that the enemies will use to enter the board and that are linked to specific numbers. Say that is a 3, someone also may have a 2, and pretty much any number between 1 and 6. We have a cover. These are pieces of terrain. The players may enter them, and when they're attacked, while they're there, you see the number there. That means that the piece of terrain will take the number of hits before it is destroyed, removed from the board, and then the hero starts taking hits. We have areas where players can interact. They act as cover, but also as you can see from that symbol, there's more there, and players can spend an action to interact with those spaces based on, well, you'll see how you interact, we'll see that later. Then we have waypoints. These are tokens that are identified by letters, and when a player interacts with one of them, then you simply check the playbook and basically you unlock content. That is, you will discover what the A token stands for in that scenario, what the B token stands for. So they change meaning depending on the scenario, and they will trigger different effects and create different types of events. We have red lines such as those are impassable. The yellow lines for cover, they just take 2 movement points, but you can pass them. The blue lines have no effect on movement. They simply divide the space in areas because there are game effects that are restricted to areas. Say maybe you can lend a certain advantage to another player in your own area, and that is what the blue lines are for. Speaking of, well, we talked about color coding. Each player is also connected through color coding to an enemy pool, and the type of enemy and the order in which you place them in a line depends again on the instructions for the scenario. And again, I made up 2 enemy pools. But it's very important not just what goes in it, but also the order. In fact, every time that an enemy enters the board, you will remove it from the leftmost side of the corresponding of the pool that you need to activate. So I need to add a yellow monster, then this one goes, and then I need to add another one, and this one enters the board. Every time that an enemy is killed and removed from the board, then it goes to the rightmost side of the enemy pool. And this is how the enemies cycle. They don't mix from pool to pool, and they always follow that order. And the enemies also have cards so that we know what are the abilities and the stats of each monster, of each different miniature. The enemies have a defense value, move value, that's pretty self-explanatory, and when they attack, they have a range and a number of dice that they roll in attack. They also have special abilities, and some abilities are linked to symbols. We'll see those in more detail later. For now, suffice to say that when you attack them and you roll the symbol that you see there, then the enemy will be able to benefit from the ability that you see there. Say I'm rolling against them and I score some hits, but I also roll one of these, and if at least one of these is rolled, then that cancels one hit. That's annoying. And different monsters will have, of course, different abilities. Monsters, yes, but how about the heroes? Glad you asked. Each hero, as we saw, is represented on the board by a miniature, but the stats are recorded on a main board and then by cards that you place around it. The main board has a number of slots where you will place wound tokens. When the hero takes a wound, they go there. If a hero needs to take a wound and there are no slots available, then the hero is down. The hero cannot do much while down, basically just waiting for somebody to help them, to heal them. It's bad. It's bad. Now, to customize your hero further, you also have class cards. Yes, your classy. That is, you choose one of several, let's call them professions. That may give you very different things. Being an assault specialist, for example, gives you extra move and gives also an extra slot for movement. If you were a scout, then you will be able to move more efficiently, and also you will have an advantage when defending. But there are many more classes to choose from or to select randomly. Each player's character has 3 slots for the things that they can carry: weapon, equipment, and weapon or equipment. That means you can carry up to 2 weapons and 1 equipment, or 2 equipment and 1 weapon. And cards, as well as the main board for each player, have these slots, which are super important because that is where you place the dice. And this really is the main engine of the game. The way the game works is each player will take a turn, and each player then will take an enemy turn in which they will activate the enemies coded with their own color. For example, here we have blue, and then we have a player that is yellow. Because as you see, I set up this imaginary game for 2 players, blue and yellow. So say blue activates, performs actions, then blue activates blue monsters. The next player goes, and once every player has gone, activating themselves and their own monsters, with the monsters coded to them, then the round is over and you apply end of round effects. You get everybody ready again, and you go again until either the players are dead or they fail somehow the objectives of the scenario, or until the players win by completing the objectives of the scenario. Each player has 4 personal dice. When a player activates, then you simply roll those dice. You may have rank tokens that you may be able to spend to re-roll your own dice. And then you assign the dice. You assign them to your board in any order, in any slot that is available, and then you simply perform the action that corresponds to the slot where you place them. For example, if you place a die on a move action, and each character has 2 move actions, then you can move your character up to that number of spaces. So I should say, use up to the number of movement points. So for example, you know what, let's move the Guardian here so it's closer to his own board and you can see things better. So for example, by placing a die there, I can move this guy up to 4, 1, 2. I want to enter there 3, 4 because it's a yellow line. Other things that I could do, maybe there are monsters around and then I can attack them. But maybe I want to move multiple times and that would be awesome. Maybe I have wounds and then I can place a rest die there and then I can remove one of my wounds or help a friend that is downed. I could place a die here to trigger that attack or I could also place a die here to trigger this attack. Now this attack actually has a special effect that is triggered when you place there a 6. And so this is something you find on many cards and different slots. That means that sometimes the die that you place there doesn't really matter what you place there, and some other times it does matter. For movement it always matters, that is up to what you can move. In other cases, for example, I don't mind having a 6 because it allows me to ignore a negative result. Now, weapons also, as you can see, have an attack value, number of attack dice that you roll, and range. So there are several actions and several things that will be triggered by various things. But I know you want to know about attacking. Who doesn't? Now, when you attack, again, you place a die in a specific slot, and suppose that my friend here is attacking with a plasma gun and is attacking with a 6, so that effect is on. I check that I have line of sight and range. I'm here, I want to attack that one, so I have line of sight, range of 4, and then I roll 4 dice because that is the attack value. Attack dice, they look really neat. You have a side with 1 hit, 2 hits, 1 hit, 2 evil robo heads, and then a hit and a resistance kind of fist. When you roll, and again I'm rolling 4 attack dice. Ooh, that was pretty bad. Now, when you roll, first you check if there are these robo heads, you check if the enemy has any of them on their cards. If I'm attacking that guy, it doesn't have any of those. So robo heads are always misses, and if the enemy has one of those effects, I also activate it. Suppose that actually I was attacking that one and I rolled robo heads, then the relentless enemy, I rolled 1 when he was defending, moves 1 X closer and gives me a point of damage. Ouchie. So when I roll first, I check if there are evil robot head effects to resolve. Those are always misses. Then I may also be able, if I roll the fist, to activate fist effects. My Guardian Arnold guy here has fist effects only when he's defended, but for example John Connor would be able to activate fist effects when attacking, and that for example allows him to ignore 1 result. So back to us, check the evil robot heads, check possible fist effects, and then count how many hits you have. And suppose that that was my result, that is 3 hits. I check the defense of the monster. If I roll the number of hits equal to or higher than the defense, the monster is kaboom, destroyed. Otherwise, oh well, too bad, nothing happens. As far as I can understand, in most cases, they don't get wounds that carry over from turn to turn. You just have to meet that threshold to destroy them, or nothing happens to them. Then, once I'm done performing my actions in any order I want, I need to activate my own monsters. Well, first I need to check for reinforcements. I roll a number of my own dice equal to, well, the number indicated in the scenario. So in this scenario, we're told that each time a player activates, then you roll 2 dice for reinforcements. And then you check if the numbers that you rolled correspond to reinforcement entries. For example, I rolled a 6 and there is a reinforcement entry with a 6. Then I take the first enemy on my pool and I place it there. Then I rolled a 5. In this scenario, it just so happens we have a 1, a 6, a 2, and a 3. So luckily enough, that 5 does not cause any enemy to appear. First you check for reinforcements, then the enemies will move, and then they'll try to attack. If an enemy is already in range and line of sight to attack a player, the enemy doesn't move, otherwise the enemy of your own color will move up to the full movement allowance, again trying to get line of sight and to get in range. After that they attack, and their attacks work exactly the way yours do. That is, you will roll a number of dice, in this case equal to their attack, and then you will resolve fist effects, meaning this time maybe you have effects that you can use when defending, like our Guardian for example does that. You ignore hits, they don't have any effect when the enemies are attacking you, and then each evil robot head, which is not cancelled by game effects, is a one that the target is taking. And this in essence is how you play the game. Activate your character, activate monsters based on what your character has in their enemy pool, and continue like this until the players, well, win the scenario or they sadly lose. I like this game quite a bit. Yes, these are proven mechanics, proven ideas. You've seen them in other games. Move and attack, move and do this, roll dice, see those symbols to activate different things, like you've seen, say, in Doom, the board game, and then Descent and other games that were based on that. Use tokens on the board to unlock sections of text in the scenario instructions that will create new content. Games like Breath of the Wild, Castle Ravenloft, we've seen that. But that's not the problem there. That's not a problem at all, actually. We have seen the same mechanics in a million games, and that's fine. It's about how they're executed. And I think overall in this game, they are executed very well. They come together well. There's a smooth integration of theme and mechanics. Really get a sense of the action that flows smoothly. These people move and they can exploit the AI a little bit, and that's perfectly fine because they are robots. There should be a degree of predictability, which to me works much better than if you're playing a dungeon crawler against an AI and we know a little too well where the orc is gonna be next time, and we can exploit exactly how much range the goblin archer has. The fact that here we are facing enemies that have been programmed makes it to me more believable, more thematically interested, and in fact you are executing a simple program as you move them, something as simple as move towards the closest opponent, stop when you're in range, attack from there. That's a very single program that you are executing analogically. It works with the theme and it works from the point of view of the mechanics. The scenarios are fun, and now there's a degree of complexity. What I showed you in my main segment is sort of the basic rules that you have in every scenario. And then other scenarios will add more rules, vehicles, and other things that work in different ways. If nothing else, maybe what I would have liked maybe was bunch more scenarios all based just on the same rules, because I learned them, now I'm familiar, and now I play the next scenario and I have to add something. I would have been perfectly happy with a rulebook with 5 scenarios just based with the things that you saw, and then add the scenarios that add those things. But not a problem whatsoever. If you like the basic idea, you don't want to add much, I think you'll be able to create your own scenarios in no time. You won't have the joy of unlocking content or having surprises that emerge from the fact that you move to token B and turns out that that's a trap that's going to spring on you. Token C and the text tells you that something else happens. You will not have that, which by the way is really fun when you have it in the game, but that's not a problem. Now, something that I mentioned in a previous review was a review of Ghostbusters 2, the board game, which I did not like all that much. What I said in that review is that there's an idea that I like, but the execution was a little too fiddly. The idea is monsters that react to what you do as you attack them. It was there in the game and I liked that idea a lot. It's just the rest of the game wasn't all that appealing to me. And I love that I find that idea in this game where it actually works very well and it's integrated within a much better organized game engine. The idea is that, yes, it's not just, well, I move and I attack, I do all of my things, and then your people that have been just standing there like zombies will act. No, the fact that some actions will be triggered by my own actions, that the enemies react to me and do stuff during the hero storms. To me, that is such a simple idea, but I wish we had it in more games. I wish we had it in pretty much any and every game in which you have tactical combat against the enemies, against automatized enemies, because it just adds unpredictability, throws a wrench in your plans, forces you to adapt, to adjust, you jump on the table as you realize that that monster is going to actually be able to do all of those things, and the situation now is completely different from what you had before. It really balances the fact that you can see where the enemies are going to be and what they're going to do, but at the same time, because of these random reactions, then things stay fresh. So you have enough information that the game doesn't feel random or too random. You can plan, and you feel that if you succeed, your tactics have been rewarded. But at the same time, you are constantly kept to the edge on your seat because of all these other things that happen, because of the text, and also because of these reactions that happen at all times. Production is nice, the components are really nice. Maybe some of the humans look a little too similar to one another from the point of view of the miniature to me, but no big deal. You can differentiate them by using those rings at the bottom, which you should do anyways. Probably you're gonna paint those miniatures, then you give them different paints. But other than that, that's such a minor thing. I just want, I don't know, just to mention one minor negative, just to show you, I don't know, that I looked at the game in some detail, and I like it very much. Maybe, I didn't want my appreciation to feel too cartoonish, but it is good. This is a good game. You have seen this kind of game before if you played hobby games in the last 10 years or so. But this is a game that is done well, and that is the entire difference. You see the recipe, or two recipes that are very similar. It's not just about the chemistry in those recipes, but how those are going to be cooked, what the chef does with them. Here there is a recipe that you may have seen, but with an interesting theme, sci-fi instead of fantasy dungeon crawler, and the execution, the chef here has worked very well, because when all of the elements, the theme, the components, the mechanics, the gameplay come together, what you have is a really fun game.